Peace and love. Peace. Peace. Peace to the good people. Hope you're doing good. Just give me 1 second. Hold on. Salute, good people. Salute. Salute to everybody. See if I'm doing good here. I think I'm okay. Looks like I'm good to go. Peace to the family. Lovely to see you. I hope everybody is doing well as I'm checking out my little stuff here. Hopefully you guys could hear me. Let me see if we got some people in the building. Yes, we do. Salute, good people. I hope everybody's doing well. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me see if I need to turn anything up. Salute to the good people. Can you guys hear me, good family? Hopefully everything is all right. Yeah, we looking good? Okay. Let's get to some salutations, of course. Firstly, I definitely am extending some wonderful blessings and energy to the good family. Thank you so much for dropping in. I see you guys making your way in. I'm going to give my salutations in just a bit, but I definitely wanted to thank you. Hope everybody had a wonderful week so far. Yeah, I hope, you have enjoyed the weekend, and that all is blessed on your side, right? Always have to extend that to the good family, the good brothers and sisters, because I'm always wishing you well, right? Let's get to these salutations and see who we have in the building so far. Oh my goodness, the king and the coach. What? My number one comrade, the first to comment this beautiful Sunday evening. Salute to the king and the coach, Hudson. He says, salute to the queen of boxing media, SugarFreeMars, my number one comrade. The name is Sugar, but ain't a damn thing sweet. Okay. Oh, you sent me your email? Okay, wonderful, King. Where did you send that? On YouTube? Did you comment? How did you send that email, King? Let me know so I can go, promptly check that and, get in touch with you ASAP, right? Because I'd love to, collab. And of course, just stay in touch with the good family, right? Salute to the king and the coach Hudson in the building. Thank you so much, King. Always for your support. And you know what? Every time you say Queen of Boxing Media, I blush very, 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 very deeply because I'm like, oh, child, please. I'm trying. But thank you so much for always complimenting me with that title. I definitely appreciate it, King. Thank you so much for your support. Salute to my lovely twin, the King, Daryl Anderson in the building, 10 toes with the love on deck, as per usual. Okay, ain't nothing new up in here, twin. He says, salute to my beautiful queen, aka my twin Sugar Free. Salute to the rest of the kings and the queens in the chat. That's right, Daryl. You already know what time it is, twin. Get them nines up. You already know how I'm stepping. Okay? Yes, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much, comrade, for the reminder, because y'all know how I am. I just come in here to spit straight up fire. Okay, I'm a straight up fire spitter, so I forget about the likes and the subscribes, because really I'm really just here to talk to my good family. So I have to be reminded of the need to, I guess, promote and remind the good family to twerk the algorithm for us a little bit. Yes, so like, share, and subscribe to content, good family. Thank you so much, comrade, for reminding the good people. Oh my goodness, my beautiful sis hit me up today and she was like, boo-boo, I did not get a notification as of yet, okay, that you were going live. My sister had to check on me today to make sure that Sugar Free was standing 10 toes with the live. I appreciate you so much for that wonderful energy, my beautiful sis Cammie. Thank you so much, you guys. Be sure to go check out my beautiful sis. Convos with Cam is the new name. She has a wonderful page where she divulges all types of aspects concerning the health of one's mentality, of one's spirit, the alignment of one's mentality and spirit and personal being. Go check out the beautiful sister Convos with Cam, okay? Because she is full of a wealth of knowledge, for anybody concerned with their mental health, which is, whether you are, battling in your own personal life or triumphing in your own personal life. I think that everybody can benefit from the fruits that she bears on her channel. Wonderful channel. Make sure you go subscribe to my sister. Okay. Let's see who else we got in the building. We got the King Angel Diaz Tento. Salute to you, King. Lovely to see you. Oh my goodness, the big stepper. Always. He don't hesitate when he comes in the building. Okay, he just throws the super chat, throws the support in the chat every time. I definitely thank you so much, King Glenn Mickens, for the constant and continued support that you show to the channel. Thank you so much for joining this fine Sunday. Salute to my beautiful sister Stephanie in the building. She says, peace, Empress Sugar Free. Salute to the Empress Stephanie. Lovely to see you as always, beautiful sis. Radiating and glowing as usual. Big love to you. Oh my goodness, dream team on deck with his flags, his fists, like he know I like to see. Okay, salute to the King Snoopy, 10 toes in the building. Lovely to see you, King. Always wonderful to have you present. Oh my goodness, my Leo twin, my goddess, the Queen Tay Tay, the brown sugar herself. Okay, Miss Tay Tay in the building. She says, my Leo sister sugar. You already know what time it is. The lioness energy is never not on the table, sis. You already know how we step in. Salute to the King Joseph Townsend. He says, salute, Sugar Free. Salute to you, King Joseph. Lovely to see you as always. I feel so, enveloped with the love and the energy of my good people in the building. Thank you so much for, joining me, you guys. It's always wonderful to chop it up and be in such wonderful company, right? So let's see where I want to start today. I guess I had an interesting bit of, things that I wanted to divulge with you guys today in our discussion. Let's see. So how do I want to begin this? Because I think it's a lot that I wanted to cover, but I definitely wanted to be as coherent in the way that I translate, what I have been viewing. Of course, ever since the phenomenal and fantastic victory, that we saw achieved by the King Bud Crawford. But I guess I could say this to begin. And looking at the scene in the aftermath of Bud's victory, his win, I think it's very interesting. At least I have been finding it very interesting. Just in this short amount of time, seeing the ways that people are moving in the aftermath of this fight, seeing what views and opinions have washed up to shore, so to speak. All types of views that have come to the forefront, have come to shore. And even in me, things that have left me very curious as to what is next, I guess. I am scoping out and wondering, I guess, about the ripple effects that the Bud Crawford victory will make or stand to make among this current climate in boxing, and even more so this era of boxing, what we would refer to as this era of boxing. And by era, I mean, I'm also looking at the people behind Bud Crawford, right? Because Bud Crawford, yes, he's at the forefront, but he is also, walking into what we would consider to be the ending, the last half or the ending chapter of one's journey, right? And so as he is amassing this new level of stature for himself, and as he has solidified and certified his place as the king of this era, right? The Terrence Bud Crawford era, I'm looking at those that are following in his path, right? Every great king, has, the people that are going to carry on that particular legacy, right? So that I'm looking at it in that particular way. Just as Mayweather left his mark and he left, a trail for all of those behind him, the Terrence Crawfords, the Keith Thurmans, the Earl Spencers, and the Canelos and what have you, that were following behind him, the mantle being passed on to them. Or even if it wasn't a literal mantle, a figurative one. Like, okay, well, now that this great giant has moved on, what will the young kings behind him do? How will they rise to prominence? How will they claim stature, right? Um, Always very interesting to me, especially when we consider the pantheon of Black elite American boxing. I'm always thinking in that context to that because we have a long history of that very system and practice. Now, many of us enthusiasts have, I guess, largely deduced at this point, right? Many of us have deduced that after Bud's victory, he should no doubt be considered the best of this era, right? Um, I don't think anybody really has too many, qualms about that after such a triumphant and wonderful display last week. And I'm wondering if, the risk that Bud took, the step that he took in, making the feat of jumping, the essentially three weight classes, right? Becoming undisputed for the third time, right? I'm wondering if the risk that he took pretty much will invoke in some way or capacity a new level of temerity in the new fighters, in the fighters that are following behind him, right? And even more so, I'm wondering if it'll spark that new level of temerity within them for the fighters who have been, I guess, lagging behind, right? Or the fighters that have been slow to bud, no pun intended, right? The ones that haven't been budding, you know, as audaciously as we would like to see. That's kind of what I wanted to center my focus on because I have been thinking about that, and seeing the boxing world's reaction to Bud. Salute to the King D in the building. I see you, King. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining. Right? Now, let's see where I want to go. When I think about the fighters being slow to bud, in some type of way, a little bit of a lag in their step, I think of Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is one of the first ones that came to mind when I posed that question. Salute to the King, Mark. I see you in the building, King. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. Lovely to see you. Shakur Stevenson certainly came to mind, right? I think of Shakur Stevenson and I ask you guys, how long has this young man been straddling the fence with his level of competition since entering into the 135 division? That's the first thing that came to mind. How long has this man been straddling the fence at 135? Now, it took me deeper because I thought about, the fact that De Los Santos was pretty much his first and only name that he has fought at 135. The only name since entering 135, you guys. Let's ponder about that. Let's resonate on that a little bit. And then let's also resonate on the fact, salute to the King Prize, I see you. Let's also resonate on the fact that that fight with De Los Santos, beautiful people, was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. This man has had no movement with any notable name since entering 135 and since having fought De Los Santos 2 years ago. What is going on? Now, sure, he fought fiercely against Zepeda back in July, right? Because a lot of us are still kind of, saluting him on that particular performance that he had, right? Where he showed a level of heart and valiance and stuff like that. And everybody kind of cheered him on and stuff like that, right? But that was still not the fight that we had asked for. As thrilling as a performance as that may have been for some people, right? And seeing the particular type of style that he chose to adapt for that particular fight against Zepeda, the Zepeda fight still was not a fight that we enthusiasts had asked for, ever, not even once. Okay, Zepeda's name was nowhere on the list of names that we have been waving. Salute to my big brother, the Droop, in the building. I see you, King. Big, big love to you. Thank you so much for joining. That wasn't a name that we had ever waved in front of his face. Like, oh, Shakur, fight him. Ain't nobody asked for no damn Zepeda. Beautiful people. Okay. We were not damn, almost kicking his damn door down to see him fight Zepeda. Okay? That's just the honest truth. And we have to look at things for what it is. His name was nowhere on the list that we have been toting around as far as, the level of competition we want to see Core in there with, right? And like I said, though many of us were at least contented with, the fact that, he went in there and in that fight with Zepeda, he had managed to silence a lot of the tropes that were thrown out, all of the castigation and disavoweling that was, thrown at him, all of the running terms, all of the Tom and Jerry, crazy ass, slurs really is what they were, and pigeonholing of not only him, but of the Black American style as a whole. You know what I'm saying? He was kind of the poster boy of that at that particular time in the lead up and the build up of that Zepeda fight, so that we were excited, to see that not only was he victorious, but that he went in there, and gave a lesson to Zepeda. Ultimately, right? I mean, he had to fight and go through the trenches for that shit. And, to a lot of people like myself, we thought it was quite careless, the avenue that he chose to take, right? The route and the particular style that he chose to take, that left him vulnerable at particular moments of that particular fight. Salute to the King Stormy, B-Man in the building, the sensei, the wise one. Salute to you, King. Lovely to see you, right? He kind of carelessly left himself open, but I think everybody essentially walked away from that fight saying, okay, he showed a level of grit that he had been missing, in quite a few of his previous fights, so that we got to see a new level of Shakur Stevenson being reached in that Zepeda fight. I think that's what satiated us as boxing fans, right? Whether we agreed fully with his battle strategy or not, I think we all walked away saying, okay, at least he silenced those critics that were calling him a runner and that were disavowing the Black elite style as we know it, right? Shakur definitely received grace from that. And he received a grace that he hadn't since previous to the infamous fight with De Los Santos, right? Which has been for, quite some time, right? We saluted the heart that he displayed. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, there is a level that has not been met, in my view, within boxing by some of the current generation of fighters. And I would even posit by an overwhelming majority of the next generation of fighters that we consider to be supreme or elite. It's too many of them, right? The pool is very small of the elite. You never really have a vast pool of the elite. There's usually far less as far as the amount, but that small pool is overwhelmingly lackluster in the showing of their grit, in the showing of their competition level, and in assuming their place. And I'm wondering about that. And I'm wondering also, what does Bud's victory stand to show them now that we are in the aftermath? Have they gotten anything out of that? Has anything been learned in watching such a triumphant victory of Bud Crawford? Have they taken that in, brothers and sisters, these young fighters? Have they taken anything in? Are these young fighters paying attention even to what was done? Are these young fighters privy, moreover, to the fact that Bud's aim was more than merely going into, simply another division, right? Even though that is an accomplishment of itself, especially when one attains championship, but that his goal was more than simply doing that, but rather, the thrust of his motivation came by way of his need and desire to want to compete with someone who was considered the best in the sport. That's where the drive and the motivation came from. Okay. And like we discussed previously in our last conversation, Bill Haney had galvanized that particular flame in him, that had pushed him and that had opened his eyes to say, yo, you can get that. You can do that. You can achieve that. And you can beat that man. Right? So that was the spark. Bud Crawford then took the spark and made up his mind to go ahead and go achieve that for himself. Right? And overcome the odds as he has done, in previous times throughout all of his career. And real talk, even personally, from the things that we know he has overcome in his own particular life. Right? So that this was another aspect of that, of wanting to show up and rise to his own occasion. And he showed the world why this is the Bud Crawford era once again. An astounding fashion, right? But I'm wondering if the kids are paying attention to that. The young lions coming up, the ones next in line. Are they paying attention? Do they realize the significance behind Bud's motives? Okay? That it was not simply to, do it for the gram. It wasn't simply for a headline really quickly on a popular podcaster's page, but that his moves were motivated and driven by legacy. 1000% and completely by legacy. The attainment and the carving out and solidifying of one's place within the sport in totality. Do the kids understand the significance of that? Is what I have been wondering, ladies and gentlemen. Furthermore, are they taking in, the fact that all of the criticism that Bud Crawford has faced throughout his career, whether they were healthy criticisms or otherwise, all of the speculations that had been made about that man throughout his career, all of the doubting even, do they understand that all of that has aided him? All of this has, aided in him wanting to test himself and compete and conquer, right? So that whether it was the healthy criticism on the sideline, whether it was the negative criticism on the sideline, that man honed all of that in addition to his natural need to compete and conquer at what he does. Because as they always say, Bud likes to be the best in everything that he does. Doesn't matter what he's doing. Playing chess, playing basketball, wrestling, whatever he's doing. You know what I mean? He got to be the king of the hill. And this was another expression of that, right? All of that has aided him in wanting to prove once again why he should be here and why he should be deemed the best of this era. Do the kids understand that? Do the ones coming up behind him understand that? Are the fighters coming up behind Bud Crawford paying attention, you guys? What do you guys think? Do you think they're paying attention? It's a very serious question. Okay? Now, some of these young men have assumed, as we all know, brothers and sisters, okay? Some of these young men have assumed a posture over the years that unfortunately boasts and gasconades about somehow, the illegitimacy of becoming a champion. I have no idea how that, frame of mind even came into the picture. But it was a thing, as we know, for quite some time. And in a lot of ways, it still kind of creeps beneath the surface, right? That there is an illegitimate need, something illegitimate about becoming a champion. Belts don't matter, right? That whole debacle that they have flaunted around for a while and even popularized at a particular time, right? Particularly when they saw a shining young king taking over the division, becoming undisputed. All of a sudden now this parlance was being waved around and resonating all throughout boxing, so much so that we even had fans backing that and saying, well, it don't matter. My fighter doesn't have to fight for belts. We all know, and because many of us have been disgusted by that over the years, even up until recently. right? Where we've seen people the likes of, say, Keyshawn Davis, for example, spew those types of words. Racist Riri ran and rode the bandwagon of that. Purple Payne Davis himself was the poster boy for that type of parlance, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not forget, yes, these fighters, barely touching their 30s, have assumed a posture that is saying it is illegitimate to now be a champion. The very thing that the beautiful kings like Charlie Burley, Coco Kid, and all the beautiful brothers who have paved the way for this sport that we love. Some of these men have literally been on bended knee praying for title shots 60, 70 years ago, only to now have the young generation of today say that the very thing that those men were praying for opportunities for does not matter. How crazy is that? Right? And I've touched on that previously. We got these people who are supposed to be the tomorrow of boxing, are suddenly telling you championship doesn't matter, belts don't matter. So that we had to sit back and witness that, brothers and sisters, which is crazy work when you think about it. Okay? We've heard Shakur Stevenson even say, oh, I don't care about undisputed. It's too much politics involved. I just want to make the big money fights. Do you hear this? These are the people that we are saying, are elite. Skip the potential. We're calling them elite fighters. People like Shakur Stevenson, Tank Davis, Keyshawn Davis. We have called them elite. We have likened them to that particular type of stature. Have we not? But this is the way that they have been moving and talking. What's really going on here, ladies and gentlemen? Let me ask this. What becomes of a tree when it begins refusing its own watering? Likewise, what then becomes of an era where fighters begin to negate their own championship? It's crazy. You are atrophying your own potential, your own existence. There's a severance from your growth and potential. There's a severance from heart and courage and just personage in general. The uprightness of one's personage is being atrophied with that type of mentality. And it has been very sickening to me. And it still is anytime I reflect on that particular, mindset that these kids have been toting around, running around with as if it's cute. Very curious time. And you know what? I find myself, saying that, often, more often than I want to, the petrification of courage, the calcification of heart. What is going on here from these particular young men who are supposed to be carrying on the sport that we love so much and respect so much? What is going on with that? It's never anything that I will stand behind, ever, right? I am saying, these are curious times. I'm saying that more often than I would like to, because I am not saying it as far as my inquisition into potentiality. I am saying that with a reticence towards what this will lead to in the future, if so many fighters have this particular mentality, and if many more of them adopt that. I think that it needs to be, cut off where it is, reshaped and redressed. We can't have the passing on of that mentality, right? So while Bud Crawford is passing on a legacy of supremacy and Black elite American masculine warriorship, what are these kids then passing on? But a mindset of contempt and laziness and tepid energy. What's happening? Some of these young men are absolutely curious to me when I look at them. When I look at them, it's like looking at a fish trying to walk upright, a fish trying to walk on land, a fish trying to walk, period. It's just strange to me. That's how these kids look like. And when I hear that type of mentality, and I view the landscape of boxing over the past 2+ years or so, I'm caught looking at these people like they are fish trying to walk on. You know what I'm saying? I can't wrap my savvy around, the notion, that these fighters can be alacritous in one moment, for example, in saying things like, "Oh, Bud is pound for pound. Oh, Bud looked beautiful. Bud looked valiant against Canelo. Oh, he made me proud. Look at his achievement, right?" But on the other hand, be the same people that don't even want to evince the best of their own skills in their own best light. They don't want to reflect their own light and the potential and heat of their own light. What's going on? They can look at Bud becoming the first 3-time undisputed champ since the legendary King Henry Armstrong in 1938. That's what Bud accomplished. They can look at that, but then turn around and say things like, "Legacy don't pay the bills." Legacy don't pay the bills, ladies and gentlemen. How many times have you heard that, brothers and sisters? How many times have you heard that, say, in the last year and a half, 2-year frame from particular fighters? Are these fighters coming up paying attention or not? Serious question. Okay? Now, of course, I reference Bud because of his place within the wider context to Black American boxing, considering what he accomplished last week. But truly, and that he is the most recent of the king, that warriorship that is holding a mantle. Before he departs, he is still holding the flame. You know what I'm saying? But that he is on his way at some particular point out the door. So I use him as the example because he is the most recent one to carry this particular torch, right? But truly, the pantheon of Black kings runs deep, as we know. There's a line and a line and a line, a legion of beautiful Black excellence, shining kings, that Bud himself stands on the shoulders of, no doubt. There are chapters and chapters of endless triumphs in our story, beautiful people. Endless chapters of defeats, endless chapters of rebirths in our history and our story in this country and within the sport, right? There is so much, in other words, to not only be in awe of, right? But that there is so much to pull from. There is so much to redress and redirect for further use and development, right? I wonder about what some of these young men today, may be afraid of, or if they're not afraid, what is causing the reticence? What is causing the reticence? Okay, what is it that they are backing away from? I really do wonder about that, and we have touched upon this, right? Because it's a continuing thread. But moreover, what are the conditions that are allowing for this reticence within these fighters, right? What is being enabled within themselves, by their own teams, by the promoters, by the media, by the fans, right? What is allowing for this particular environment to thrive currently in this particular era? Now, I see the same thing also going on socially as well, right? There seems to be a veil over the mentality right now in this current time that we are in. Something that gives off the illusion of security within these current times. Depending on how you look at it, it's a security or an illusion, right? It's probably both and. But that, there is the sense that one can't pass beyond a particular point, or one doesn't need to, right? So let's say for some of the fighters, that mentality or that veil may show up in the form of money. Oh, as long as, I'm being paid, I don't need to supersede or recreate what's been done. I don't need to, what do they call it? Spark, the fire. I don't need to be oppositional to any to the norms, if you will, right? I need to be going beyond this point that was set forth. I'm good. I have a few little trinkets here and there, things that shine, things that sparkle. I'm okay where I am. No need to be innovative anymore. No need to develop the language. No need to sharpen or whatever have you. That's what it seems like to me. I'm not sure if you guys, have been seeing the same thing socially, and of course in boxing. People know me. There's no need to, go any further. I'm content with where I'm at. I'm good type of mindset. But, when I think about it, it's like, what else could have prompted that parlance and sentiment among fighters who took on this particular type of cloak of belts don't matter? What else could have prompted that except a level of reticence within them? What is that? You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you guys, when we look at the fighters who say things like that, belts don't matter. You know what I'm saying? The ones that, like to, rather boast about the sparkly, shiny things, the bag, you know what I'm saying? That whole obsession with the bag. When we look at those fighters who really hold and tote that up, to one degree or another, brothers and sisters, all the people who have spoken like that over the years have all entrapped themselves, have all found themselves stagnant, come up across a sort of impasse in their careers. Facts or no? Have you guys noticed that? The ones that have been talking like that have come up across a blockade where they are now hindered. They cannot move forward, or their choices and decisions have led them to, a brick wall, essentially. So that they literally cannot get beyond it now, because there's a level of castigation and exposure that has come from those ill decisions that they have made, and they are completely being exposed for that. Case in point, brothers and sisters, Keyshawn Davis. Okay, like I said, he was one of the ones saying, "Oh, belts don't matter. Oh, I don't really care about the belts." You know what I'm saying? He was willing to lose his belts on the scale. This is how careless the mindset was. Right? Salute to the King NBA. I see you, King. Right? I'm going to touch base with all of y'all in the chat and see what y'all talk about just a moment. Just wanted to land this really quickly. Right? Keyshawn Davis, right? The carelessness that he had adopted, right? Because we never saw him officially come in and make his presence known, saying those types of things. It was later, after, the more curiosity that built around him, the more eyes and attention, that he got. This is when we started to hear him take on that level of parlance, right? So that Keyshawn, who was just coming pretty much into view, right, as a force in boxing upon entering the 135 division, he was just coming into view. He was just winning his first, belt, right? He was slated to have his first title defense after winning his belt against Baron-Chick, ladies and gentlemen. You guys remember this was only a few months ago, right? Just now stepping in, just now beginning to take some shine, just starting to get off the ground, and he totally crashed his own plane, brothers and sisters, just earlier this year. Before he was even able to take off, this motherfucker crashed his goddamn plane. Completely went up in smoke. Excuse me? my comrade says, pass the peas like they used to do. You understand what I'm talking about? Okay? You understand me? The motherfucker didn't even get off the goddamn ground, beautiful people. And he fucking crashed his own goddamn plane. Completely went up in smoke. Completely gone asunder. Nobody is even talking about Keyshawn Davis right now, beautiful people. How the fuck did that happen? So that there is something that followed his words. All of the belts don't matter ultimately made him not matter. After all of the belts don't matter talk, that's fucking Exhibit A, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody is talking about him right now. Ever since everybody was up in a frenzy about how foolishly and the display of juvenility of he and his cohorts, okay, behaved on that particular day. Nobody is even blinking an eye at that man or inquiring about him. Exhibit B. Shakur Stevenson over the past 2 years has lost so much steam. Of course, he has not received the level of disavoweling, as far as people being disgusted by his behavior. But certainly over the past 2 years, Shakur Stevenson has lost so much steam because of his performance against De Los Santos, as aforementioned. And he has since been labeled Tom and Jerry, yellow, a runner, etc., etc., so that there has been nonstop castigation all over this man. Only just up until a couple of months, back in July, a couple of months ago when he faced Zepeda. Zepeda is really his first coming up for air in 2.5 years, where he is now being seen in a little bit of a better light. But all of that over the past 2 years has encompassed his assuming of the belts don't matter debacle. The debacle of him having and holding that mindset, because surely he said he didn't want to be undisputed. I just want the big money fights, as I had presented to you guys earlier and mentioned to you guys earlier. All of this came off of the back of that. And so once again, here is the energy of you saying all of this belts don't matter talk, and you finding yourself slowly, more readily, not mattering your goddamn self. You had to put yourself damn near in front of a bullet against Zepeda. Fighting carelessly, fighting despite your beautiful prowess and beautiful boxing, pure knowledge and footwork and experience and expertise. You had to throw all of that to the goddamn wind in order to get a pat on a fucking head and a high five from the public. You had to throw away your intelligence in order to get the level of approval. And it wasn't even really much, because you really didn't achieve anything. There was no belt on the line. People just saw you standing in the middle of the ring and biting down and going blow for blow with Zepeda. So, what was that worth, really? You understand what I'm going, beautiful people? Right? So that people just now put down the Tom and Jerry, oh, you're a runner, you're boring, etc., etc. But you know what? We can't say that with any finality, because it may very well persist. It may very well take steam. That particular labeling of Shakur Stevenson as a runner, as boring, it may very well take steam again once he returns to the ring, whenever that may be, right? But all of this came as a result, or all of this was carrying the energy that led to a further energy of his virtual insignificance, if you will. It fed into a level of insignificance that he has had to ride and contend with, right? Now, Exhibit C is Purple Pain goddamn Davis. Purple Pain Davis, after talking all of that talk, because he was the spearhead, the fucking founder of the belts don't matter, posture, the pompous, arrogant, language and posture that he assumed the belts don't matter, right? Of course, spewing from his jealousy of Devin Haney, right? Email champion, all this, that, and the third. Now, lo and goddamn behold, he's been an email champion for goddamn 2-3 years, ever since Devin came undisputed and dropped the belts. This is motherfucking king of goddamn email champions, right? So that there's an energy that caught him and bit him on the ass as well after talking all that nonsense. Now, Purple Pain Davis out here motherfucking giving up completely and said that he's headed for goddamn retirement, sooner than later, as early as the end of the year, even possibly. Right? And not only has he been talking the retirement talk, his ass is pretty much showing that he is on his way out the door by, scooping up a good old exhibition fight to further avoid any signs of smoke with his contemporaries. He wants no part of it. Okay? And this is the most, crystallized viewing of that sentiment that he holds, that he does not want to contend with or compete with his contemporaries by taking on, this debauchery of an exhibition fight with Jake Paul at some point at the end of the year. So that all of these men who have been talking that nonsense, have nothing to show for themselves as a result of that. They got exactly what they was asking for. Oh, you say belts don't matter? Okay. So that means that you don't matter. You think that you're bigger than the sport. That's what that language said. But, energy is a real thing, beautiful people. Belts don't matter. You think you're bigger than the sport. How quick was the energy in turning around that without that belt, without the legacy, they virtually ran themselves into a ditch that they cannot get out of? You understand? How the fuck can Purple Pain Davis explain away this Jake Paul fight? He can't. He's being castigated left and right by the conscious fans. How is Shakur Stevenson, going to be able to explain away that he only faced De Los Santos, one person, since he's been at the 135 division in all of this time? No names of notability on his resume. Same thing with Keyshawn Davis. How can he explain away the buffoonery of his antics? How can he come back and bounce back from that upon his return, if he returns? Do you see the energy that followed these men that were championing this disgusting mentality? What has it gotten them, brothers and sisters, except in a motherfucking bind? You get what you ask for. One way or another, it may not show up the way you expect, because certainly they thought they was cute waving that nonsense around. But what they got was a hard motherfucking wake-up call. Okay? Mediocrity begets mediocrity. Monotony begets monotony. Right? But that, I would say, out of these examples and out of these men that I bring up, I would say that at least to Shakur Stevenson's benefit, he is now, as I'm sure you guys may have seen, attempting to line up a fight now with Teofimo Lopez, right? So that's something that is giving him maybe a little bit of a silver lining at the end of the tunnel, somewhat, right? But that stands to be seen, because I don't even know if that's actually official, right? There's no fight date. There's no nothing. Supposedly they are still in negotiations. Excuse me, but I think that they are, trying to put some steam behind it, to garner the interest, while they are developing, the finalizing of that particular type of fight, right? So that's something that maybe we can look forward to at some point next year. We'll see what that brings. But, real talk, when I saw that, that because with the fight and stuff like that, they had their face off and stuff with the Bud Canelo and all of that stuff, and the talking that was done. And I really wasn't interested, to be honest. And it really led me to wonder if it's too little too late for Shakur, as far as the grandeur of Shakur, not necessarily for his career, because he is still very much a young man, no doubt. He still very much has a long way to go, right? But as far as the grandeur of Shakur Stevenson, the supremacy, the stature that we assumed, that he had, all of our belief, when we were all watching him say, "I'm the next Sugar Ray Robinson, I'm the next Floyd Mayweather," that rings in my head still. I still see the baby-faced, big smile with the dimples, the Olympian that was coming into the sport and that was, so, anxious to prove himself. I still see that Shakur when I look at him, right? But that's the very thing that makes me very sad when it comes to him, in seeing his moves and seeing him take up, I don't care about belts. I want the money fights, and, not wanting to compete, the ducking of Devin. It's just, all of these things make me kind of, disheartened, right? So that I'm wondering if it's too late for his grandeur, for him to assume the posture that we all believed that he would come through, ablaze with. He hasn't been on fire, Shakur Stevenson. Brothers and sisters, am I the only one seeing that? Shakur Stevenson has not been on fire. He just has not. All the fire that was around him has been, smited, has been put out to a large degree. He is still very much full of potential, like I said, right? But that he hasn't realized the potential at this point in his career. I mean, this man is not new in boxing. You know what I mean? He didn't just get here yesterday. He should be contending with the best right now. He should have been on that path already. What's going on? That's what makes me wonder if it's too little too late. Can he ever assume that level of grandeur that we believed he could attain for himself? I definitely don't like the assault that his stature has gone through with the whole running, stigmas that have been placed on him, the boring stigmas, basically the public humiliation and lynching of Shakur Stevenson. I'm not sure if you guys were familiar with the commentary I did, last year, that was showcasing and speaking very in-depthly about this particular target that was put on Shakur Stevenson's back, and how he kind of symbolized and represented the Black elite male and all that. I really went into that last year, right? So that the fact that it was continuing in the dialogue concerning the Tom and Jerry nonsense and all of that stuff like that is just, it's just showing, I have a trail of how I was seeing that unfolding even then, right? I definitely didn't like the all of that was thrown on him. But I don't think that he's bypassed the reprimanding that he has been getting all of this time. There is still very much that mentality attached to Shakur Stevenson, and I want to see if he's going to be able to rise above that. In my view, ladies and gentlemen, he should have fought somebody like Teofimo 2 years ago, right? Off of that De Los Santos fight, you know what I'm saying? He could have had one other fight to refresh him, and he should have been getting somebody, the likes of Teofimo Lopez. You understand what I'm saying? Especially if he was already assuming the posture that he didn't want to be undisputed. What the fuck is he doing at goddamn 135 then? Is it because the competition? You understand what I'm saying? Why is he holding a belt now? Why is he defending a belt? He should have been moved up if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? He should have definitely already fought somebody like Lomachenko. Hell, even goddamn George Kambosos, right? Let's say this was before him coming to the conclusion that that the belts don't matter and all that nonsense he was talking. At least build up the names on your goddamn resume. You talking all this shit and you ain't fucking fought nobody. You talking like you know what I'm saying? Like you was in there with Holyfield and them. Like you was in there with Duran. What? You ain't fucking fought nobody to have the gall and the audacity, to say that belts don't matter when you've amassed no real critical acclaim yet, as far as, weight on a fight that you've succeeded in against a notable elite competitor. You understand? What is this ego of these young men coming up to say such a thing before they've even proven any goddamn thing? At least fucking fight Loma, at least fucking fight goddamn Kambosos. Push for these goddamn things. If you can't get one, get the fucking next. Take notes from the young King Devin Haney. Man had a hit list of 10 people. He couldn't get one, he went to next. He couldn't get that one, he went to the next. He couldn't get this one, motherfucking next. That's it. You know what I'm saying? But have your aim, have your objective, of the best around you to compete with. This motherfucker, I couldn't get Lomachenko, Bob Arum. Okay, you can use that excuse. Why the fuck didn't you fight goddamn Kambosos? Why you didn't fight goddamn Mortala? What's popping with you and goddamn Keyshawn? You too busy holding hands, frolicking in the goddamn daisies, and not thinking about goddamn competition. But you want to say people ducking you? I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? Shakur Stevenson is 28 years old, brothers and sisters. He is very much a young man, but at the same time, he is a grown ass man. You understand me? He is grown. He is too old to be 28 years old and have no nobility on his resume. You got to fight somebody. Somebody heavy. Somebody with presence. Somebody with fire on them. You got to fight somebody like that. Okay? De Los Santos is the only person so far that was coming with that type of smoke, and even he is not the nobility that I am speaking of. What's going on? None of these men that I mentioned have the nobility on their names. Neither does Red Light Special Davis. Purple Pain does not have nobility on his resume either. It's a shame because he is refusing to fight Shakur Stevenson. It's weird work, the balancing act that's being going, the juggling act that's being going on here, the walking around goddamn eggshells. I'm tired of seeing it and have been tired for quite some time, as the good brothers and sisters know. You know what I'm saying? Let's say the same thing with Boots and his beautiful brothers and sisters. What's going on with Boots? Boots is the same age as Shakur. Once again, very young man. When we think about the process and the journey of his life, he is young. But in boxing age, motherfucker, you too goddamn old to not have nobility. At least one noble fighter, noble name, weighted name of severity and stature on your resume, bruh. What is happening? Boxing fans, it seems like we are looking towards a light that is being snuffed, that is being dimmed. A light that is on its last leg. And how? These motherfuckers didn't even begin yet. How is the light dwindling? How is it dwindling before it even begins? What is going on in the business of boxing is another question that I am having. Are these men refusing to move, or are they being withheld? Are among the questions that I have. And most certainly, the question of the evening is, are the fighters coming up behind Bud Crawford paying attention? Are they paying attention? I really do wonder about that. Let me check in before I continue with the good family. Salute to all the brothers and sisters who joined. Salute to you guys. Let me see what y'all talking about. Ain't it a great question, comrade? It's a great question. It's one that I think, all conscious boxing fans are divulging at the moment, into one capacity or another, whatever varying degree of it. I think it's on all of our minds in looking at the King Bud Crawford do what he did so wonderfully, so fantastically in his achievement. And we are now looking at, not only him and what his next moves will be, but of course, naturally, we are going to look at the people that's coming up behind him, especially somebody like Shakur Stevenson, who is the goddamn self-proclaimed understudy, the protege of Bud Crawford. You know what I mean? What y'all doing? What y'all doing? My twin says, sadly, the culture now is chasing the bag, even if it means making a complete fool out of yourself. Best example is TikTok. Child, I don't even have no goddamn TikTok. I don't ever go on goddamn TikTok. I have been on it before, some years ago, but child, I can't keep up with it. It's just, the things that I have seen on there is diabolical. But there's a mindset of, I don't even know what you would call it. Showing up without proving, so that there's a need to look, you present yourself a certain way, but that there is no real follow through. There is no real display of passion, and centralized, unapologetic heat. I don't see that. I see a lot of pretentiousness. You know what I'm saying? And, that's what I was speaking about socially. And of course, that's why you bring up the TikTok, because it really is a social dynamic, right? And so what we see being exemplified in these fighters may just be an offshoot of that we see going on. Very interesting stuff. Okay. The CDB, salute to you. He says, probably not. They're paying attention to the money, though. Obviously, they are definitely paying attention to the money, because the money is at the forefront of all of their language, of all of their, it's like, how many times have I said this, brothers and sisters? I have no problem with nobody getting a bag. Go ahead and get your bag. Okay. I want generational wealth for all of my brothers and sisters, whether you are a fighter, whether it is you, whether it is me. I want all of us to be out here getting it. You understand what I'm saying? But that there has to be some value attached. It is never simply a one-dimensional aspect, right? If you are talented at something, you definitely should be paid for that. And you definitely, especially if you have a large stage, as a lot of these, public figures do, and sportsmen and athletes and all of that do. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and go get that. But that doesn't mean that legacy or value or worth should be excluded from the table. That's not anything that I support. You know what I mean? And I think that that is a single-mindedness that's going on right now, where there is an obsession with a bag, which I did a live on as well. I'm not sure if you saw that, but yeah, we definitely cooked on that aspect. That mentality and perspective. You know what I'm saying? Very interesting stuff. Twin also says the positive effect is that Mayweather fought great competition, but all these kids see is the O in his record and the money he made. They don't see the work behind it. 1000%. And we've cooked on that as well many times. Yes, a stifled tree is what you get. Salute to the King DP in the building. The fuck promotions in the building. 10 toes. Salute to you, King. Salute to the King Khalid in the building. He says Shakur would rate hang, or did you mean high? Shakur would rate high in with the greats instead of working to be great. I'm not sure what you meant by that. I'm trying to decipher that. But oh, okay. I guess I get the undertone of it, right? He would like to be rated with the greats instead of working hard to be great. And I'd hate to say that that's see, it makes me sad, but real talk, I can't be sad because if that's how you step in, that's how you step in. I'm not out here trying to save nobody. You know what I'm saying? You got to show up on your time. You got to show me the valor in order for me to meet you with valor, right? And so that may very well be true, Khalid. That he would rather, have the vibe of greatness on him instead of, doing the due diligence to, amass and assume and claim that level of greatness that he wants to be associated with, or that he loves referencing. And when he talks about his favorite fighters, or the way he dotes over Bud, it's just, you chose to be in the same profession. You have the benefit of being under the tutelage and generalship of somebody like Bud Crawford. It's time for you to shine because you are quite literally the next up, right? As I said in the title, this generation is next up. That's a fact. What are you going to do with your position? And these people have to learn how to get beyond the ego aspect of the lights and the glamour that come with the recognition. You want to be recognized for what you do, for your display of valor, right? Not just sitting around talking and tweeting and ducking. That's just never going to do justice. It didn't do it for the giants before you. It ain't going to do it for the young brothers now. You know what I mean? Exactly. According to Tank, he doesn't want to become a meme. And that's very indicative of the choice that he's been making, all the evasions that he's been doing, right? Like I said, salute to the King NBA D Nice. I got you. Lovely to see you. You know what I'm saying? It's a viable conversation, brothers and sisters. Oh, salute to the King. The King, my brother Stephen X in the building. Salute to you as well, King. Always lovely to see you. Oh my goodness, we got the King G tatted up. Salute to you. He says, hello, Queen, and blessings. Salute to you, King. Thank you so much. Oh my God, my good brother Shelton, LDBC or nothing, is in the building. 10 toes. Salute to my good brother. And salute to you as well, Andrew. I see you. It's a discussion that we are all having at this time. And it's definitely one, like I said, no matter what shade we have thought about it in, I think all of us are kind of, privy to this type of angle of discussion that we're taking today. Now, Bud Crawford wasn't, just to put this in perspective for, let's say, the young fighters who may not get it. In my view, Bud Crawford wasn't spared an inch, ladies and gentlemen, right? Bud Crawford wasn't spared an inch during his rise to prominence. Facts or no? He wasn't spared. Okay. After becoming undisputed at 40, what did he do? He moved up to 47, right? And there is where the world was, anticipating, him to make an entrance within. We were waiting for him to go to 147. You know why? Because there was somebody at 147 motherfucking with the answers for him. Okay, there was somebody with a name up there, right? There wasn't a person in the world who was not anticipating the eventual collision between he and the king of that division, who was Earl, the truth, the biggest fish, Spence Jr. That's who was that goddamn 147, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so that upon Bud's entrance into there, it was just like, you know what I'm saying? It was just like how we see with Tank and Devin's name being synonymous, with Shakur and Devin's name being synonymous, with Shakur and Tank's name being synonymous. Same type of energy was had for EJ and Bud Crawford, right? The world was so anticipating the day that those men would finally meet in the ring. And it took some years, you know what I'm saying? The building of that, the buzz of that, the intensification of the energy, everybody being galvanized about the possibility of that. It was all there. All that heat and all that weight was set on that. And Bud had to prove his worth and valor. I know it's something that he is still to this day very salty about. You know what I'm saying? The fact that he had to go in there and get it, and that people had him, people had EJ picked over him, right? Because all of the things that EJ was doing, snatching belt from champion to champion, taking heads, snatching crowns from people, earning his place. You understand me, right? And so that, Bud, felt like he, was in the shadow of EJ. That's what I feel like, at least, right? So that he had to prove his worth and his valor. And guess what? The people scrutinized his every step, as they should have. Because that was a time where people wasn't just going to give you, this false esteem that you were the best before you proved it. You had to prove it. You had to prove it at that particular time in boxing, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? And that's the time, that particular type of wave is where I came back into boxing, real talk. Like I said, countless times, it was the likes of EJ that pulled me back, along with some other fighters. You know what I'm saying? Into boxing with the ferocity that I have now. It's because of people like Earl Spence Jr. Watching him, the myth around him about he and Mayweather. The fact of him, having his fights and then, fighting that dude. I forget his name. I always forget his name. I think it starts with an L. Lamont, was it Pearson, something like that. Watching those fights, you know what I'm saying? Then seeing him step it up to the Kell Brook. And then seeing him snatch crown after goddamn crown afterwards. So that Bud had to prove his valor. People weren't just going to lay it at his feet. Right? And so he may be salty about that, but that's the very defining thing, that made the animal that we see today and that ultimately faced EJ. Okay? People were not, demanding that he prove his worth and criticizing him or anything simply to hate, even though that was very much, a part of some people's mindset. I guess there's always a hater around, right? Or a few of them, right? But that it was more important at the time that he show and prove who he was, because EJ was making it ever so clear, with each fight after fight, that he was a worthy king, that he was a worthy king, that he was capable of kingship. And when he amassed his championship, and continued to do so in claiming his title, he was proving, fight after fight, that he was a worthy king. Right. And everybody believed that Bud was on par with that, which is the reason why we had demanded of him, to show that, to, explicate that for us. Okay. At that particular time, like I said, there was no such thing as, I'm just going to sit quietly here and sip my goddamn lemonade. That wasn't happening at that time in boxing. There was no belts don't goddamn matter talk, ladies and gentlemen. When did you hear belts don't matter back in those times, those years ago? You just didn't hear stuff like that. Okay? It was only the mentality of you will prove yourself and you better goddamn prove yourself. If you want me to rock with you, if you want me to believe that you can contend with the best, right? You got to show up and you got to show hard. And that's what Bud had to do steadily. Okay? All of the pressure that boxing fans put out was really to see, if he would rise to the occasion and prove that he was as worthy as Earl was, as Earl had been displaying at that time. And so it only drove the narrative even more into a fire, a super need and desire to see these two men who we knew were capable of so much from what Bud was displaying, from what EJ was amassing for himself with his championship and stuff like that, right? To see if he was on that type of time. It built the fire and the flame that we eventually got. In other words, right? We wanted to see if he could rise to that occasion, Bud Crawford, and 1000% he did. Okay, he did that at 47 upon his entrance, slowly but surely. Took some time. We had to wait as boxing fans to get that Bud EJ fight, but when we got it, Lord have mercy. You know what I mean? Bud came stepping like nobody's goddamn business, as he should have, right? So, it's just as everybody wanted to see that rise. Everybody wanted to see him hold his own and stuff like that, and he wound up doing that. There was no room for the painting of nails at that time when that fight was being built up. Beautiful people. There was no, I'd rather go fight a YouTuber. I'd rather go fight a goddamn exhibition, instead of fighting the best in the division. Imagine if Bud Crawford was saying some shit like that. Let me go goddamn paint my goddamn toenails, get a new Gucci bag, and fight an exhibition and swerve around the king of the division. Imagine if EJ did that. Imagine if he twiddled his goddamn thumbs and didn't push to make that fight with Bud Crawford. Imagine that. Okay? No, that did not exist. There was only the mentality of, when I get you, I'm going to destroy you and I'm going to behead you in front of everybody. That's what Bud Crawford was saying. That's what EJ was saying. When I get you. Somebody gonna win, somebody gonna definitely lose. But they was both standing 10 toes on that type of time to show up when that day came. That was the energy that surrounded the heat of the Bud and EJ fight. That's what made me galvanized as a boxing fan, you understand. And you brothers and sisters remember, because you were there as well. You know what I mean? Everybody was talking about that. Everybody was waiting for that day to come. And when it did, it did. It materialized. No matter the outcome, we got what we wanted. We got what we were asking for as a boxing community. Ladies and gentlemen, two beautiful elite warriors facing each other in the ring, not swerving. Not swerving. It happened by hook or by goddamn crook. It happened. Okay? So that when Bud finally aligned with EJ and he did exactly that, he dethroned the king. He earned and solidified his place as the pound for pound at that particular time. He absolutely dethroned the king and became king. Right? And now, just last week, we all bore witness again to him replicating that mentality of warriorship and kingship at 168 against Canelo when he dethroned him. All right? So that there is another crown, another head on the mantle of Bud Crawford. Okay? He got the head of two kings on his mantle. You understand? Now, to me, Canelo's crown was just an exclamation point to an already exclaimed statement. You understand? It's basically, to me, the Canelo fight with some extra sparkle, to his accreditation. But real talk, it was the Errol Spence fight that was his shining claim to glory. That is who he had to prove to the boxing world that he could beat. That is who the world was demanding that he show up to prove that he could beat. The world was not showing up and demanding that so much so of the Canelo fight, because nobody was asking for the Canelo fight for 6 or 7 years. Who they were asking for Bud to fight for 6 or goddamn 7 years was Errol Spence. That's who we were salivating over. That's what we wanted to see. That's who we were adamant and vehement about when we were having our boxing conversations, brothers and sisters. Oh, Bud is better than EJ. EJ is better than Bud. That's where the heat and the weight was. So that's what makes that particular fight his moment of glory in defeating EJ, right? The whole world, like I said, for years, 6 or 7 years, had been screaming to the goddamn mountaintops that he must face Errol Spence Jr. in order to get to any type of level, in order to be deemed any type of worthy, in order to have any level of accreditation, he had to go through EJ. That was the demand of the boxing world. That did not exist for Canelo Alvarez as an opponent. That was an add-on fight, right? That was a fantasy fight made real, right? And we all, to one degree or another, had built an interest after it's being promoted, right? But that was never anything we went into demanding as boxing fans in totality. Okay? That was the fight that we demanded him to show and prove himself for and within. And he accomplished that. A definitive battle between he and his biggest career rival in facing Earl Spence Jr. He did that. That's a beautiful feat. How many of these young men coming up are going to be able to say that they have faced their biggest rival with this type of tepid energy that we have been seeing among a few of them in particular? Thankfully, not all of them. Brothers and sisters, you know, I look at Devin Haney and I really do see a fire around that young man. I really do. A brilliant, radiant flame around the young King Devin. You know, a flame that he is carrying on within the stature of, within the pantheon of Black excellence before him. He has that same flame that they have had, the legion of Black warriors before him. He has that. He is on that type of time. Devin Haney is the only one among his contemporaries who has already tasted undisputed glory, just like Bud has. Hello? Hello. Salute to the King, Bo Rice. I see you just joining. Appreciate you, King. Hello. He is the one among his contemporaries, the only one who has tasted what Bud has tasted, which is the feeling of becoming undisputed. He is the youngest to do it in the four-belt era, as I always make it a point to say and highlight, because we got to understand the significance and severity and weight of that. Let's not throw our adoration on Bud Crawford and act like we can't look at the young king and give him the same credit for doing so at barely goddamn 26, 27 years old. Yes, that's Devin Haney. Okay? That's a feat that he accomplished at 23 years old when he became undisputed, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? And not only did he become the youngest undisputed champ in the four-belt era, he defended his undisputed twice. That is something that Bud Crawford has never done in neither of the three undisputed championships that he has amassed for himself, ladies and gentlemen. Bud Crawford, even though he is 3 times undisputed, has never defended undisputed. Devin Haney has done it twice. I am pointing out the beauty. This is not a competition. The salutation is to Bud Crawford, and the salutation is to somebody like Devin Haney. I am showing the degrees of Black warriorship and excellence, the type of time that we should be on. We should be on Bud's time. We should be on Devin's time as fighters. At least that's what the type of time I'm expecting these fighters to be on. When are these people going to catch up? That's why I ask if they are paying attention, ladies and gentlemen. How is it that Shakur Stevenson nor Purple Pain Davis have yet to even unify since being at 35? How is it that they have yet to unify? I ask these questions to push the needle, to spark a flame, in the hopes that one day these young brothers will wake up and stop playing with their own potential. This is the residual, as I mentioned earlier. This is the residual and the outcome of the cowardly stance and mindset that holds that belts don't matter. That's the outcome. That you could be in a division for I don't know how many goddamn years, how long of a time, and not even unify a single belt. That's the outcome of that particular stance that these men have been thinking was cute to wave a flag for. You get left behind. You have nothing to show for yourself. And I'm asking, why don't they have anything to show for themselves yet? Right? We are waiting. I'm waiting to see what you are going to make of yourself because I want to support the making. I want to add the fuel to that fire that sword is going to pass through as your fan, as your supporter, right? If Shakur Stevenson moves up to 140, beautiful people, it's just popped in my brain. What is he going to do if he still holds that mentality of belts don't matter? What will be the point? Does he intend on staying at 140? Or is he just going to go ahead and go get his quote unquote biggest fights or biggest fight, which is Tio at 140 and bounce? What is he going to be doing? Does he intend on unifying there? Has he changed his mind? Is he at least going to do what he did not do at 135? Is there going to be some unifications popping? If he wins that prospective fight on the horizon, supposedly against Tio, because real talk, I sure as hell can't give any credence or weight or any measure of significance to Shakur Stevenson if he is only simply going to go to 140 to fight Tio and that's it. The fuck? No, that's not what I'm interested in. Having been a long supporter of this man, what are you going to do? Fight Tio and then bounce on to, go on a whole bum bashing tour afterwards? What's going to happen? You know what I'm saying? What's going to be the point if you have no intention on grabbing straps, in other words? The fight with Teofimo, ladies and gentlemen, means nothing if he is not going to dominate the division. It's going to be insignificant, just like his run at 135 would have been or has proven itself to be, because he had no unifications and he fought no significant names. Is he going to go to 140 and do the same goddamn thing? Right? Except that, I guess the Teofimo fight would have materialized. But then what? Then what? What is the path? There are other people besides Tio who are champions, at 140 who I would like to see him fight. Okay? Right? Tio has the WBO belt. I believe Hitchinson holds the IBF title currently. You got Subriel Matias, who is the WBC champ. And, I believe Antoine Russell is the WBA strap holder currently. Right? Beautiful names up there. Right? Hitchins, Matias, and Russell. Russell's my number one. He's my favorite there. Okay? So that, imagine a fight with Core and goddamn Russell. Let's get this motherfucking shit popping, son. Why not become unified? Why not become undisputed at 140? I hope this is his trajectory. I really do. Because I don't want to see no time being wasted. He already did that at 135. Whether it was from the politicking, the picking and choosing, the ducking, the undisputed, he better get motherfucking savvy. If he didn't learn his lesson at 135 and he take that same bullshit up to 140, he's going to have problems with me. You know what I mean? I don't want to see him wasting his time. I really don't. What is popping? Go ahead and go, do your biggest one. It's time for that. It is past time for that. Does he intend on getting this work or not? That's what I find myself asking. Or, can we expect a continued fight for his own monotony? Is that what we are going to see? I have really big questions for Shakur Stevenson because I really do find him to be the one worth salvaging at this point. He's the one worth salvaging to me among the names that I had mentioned previously. You know, how can you be monotonous though? As the self-proclaimed student of Bud Crawford, I do not know. It's time for him to get on that type of time. You know, you got greatness all up in your face. You're around it 24/7. You in there sharpening swords with it. What is the point if you're not going to hone that excellence and apply it to your own path? What is the point of studying besides greatness if you aren't going to assume and showcase your own? Facts or no, people? He has to take that, make it work for himself, and set his path ablaze. He has to do that. Okay. Course seems to have the most promise to me, as I said, of the red light special Davises and Keyshawn. He is the one with the promise to me. He is the one that I'm looking towards as the hopeful. He has at least a little bit of hope on him, where I just find the other two to be destituted. I'd like to see him rise above what he has shown, Shakur Stevenson. You know what I'm saying? Has he been paying attention? I really do wonder about that. Maybe all of the castigation that he faced in the lead up to the Zepeda fight, all of that talk and rhetoric that was surrounding him, the chastising and the criticizing his style and stuff like that. Maybe that opened his eyes a bit. I don't know. Hopefully he used that as a bit of a flame. Maybe it galvanized, I don't know, some type of fire in him. The fact that he received a level of praise and support that he hadn't seen in quite some time. Right? He got a lot of praise and support, for his showcasing in that Zepeda fight. Hopefully that, awakened a level of grit in him. Right? I want to see grit. I want to see flame, but I want to see that put on the elites like himself. I don't want to see him applying, any heat on a fucking Zepeda. I don't want to see a goddamn another Zepeda in front of Shakur Stevenson. He did what he did with that. He got him out of the way. He did his business. Okay. Let's get to these elites. Let's get to the smoke. Right? And certainly having Tio on his resume as a fight, right? Should that fight get made, I think is definitely a step in the right direction, because that's a fight that I have been long wanting to see as well. Teofimo Lopez. Okay, so I think there's a step in the right direction, because Tio, even though I don't give a damn about that man, he does have a bit of a name, tied to him from what he had did, at 135, right? And what he has done. He's the champion, of course, at 140, right? So that's a step in the right direction. At least you are fighting a champion. You know what I'm saying? It's time for Shakur Stevenson to take the crown, take the belt of a champ, of a notable name. That's why I brought up the scenario with EJ and Bud and that whole dynamic between them and the tensions between them and stuff like that, right? It's time for him to embark on that same path, make that same move. He got to take the head and the strap of somebody considered a top competitor. He has to do that. And, the TO fight is a step in the right direction. I would only hope that he continued on the path afterwards. It would be wonderful to see him a unified champ, an undisputed champ, at 140, if he intends on staying there. Right? It just doesn't make sense otherwise to me. So that the potential for that is why I lean a little bit more towards him as having the most potential out of the other men. Truthfully, real talk, my eyes are on the young king, Devin Haney. All right. It's always on the young king, Devin Haney. And most certainly, as we are on the brink and drawing nearer and nearer to his upcoming fight in November, Devin the Dream Haney. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the friendly reminder that smoke time is on the goddamn horizon. Okay, I am so anticipating this fight. I was so hyped up for this fight, as I always say. Every time I get to this point where I talk about it, I have been so anxious for this fight. When I saw, the build-up, the hit list, then the talking, then the fast signing of the contracts, the demon time that both Team Norman and Team Haney were on, and getting that contract signed within, barely 2 weeks. They had the contract signed. Boom! Then we had the press conference. Boom! Then we had them getting yoked up at the goddamn presser. All of that heat, all of that shit had me like, yes, boxing is on fire again. This is where boxing needs to be, right? So I've definitely been in anticipation for that. Um, what he has coming up, in my view, is definitely going to be the biggest fight of the year for me. That's what I am anticipating. Devin Haney, the young king, is aiming for 3 division championship. Okay, in his fight against Brian Norman Jr. Okay, and Devin Haney, this stands to be the second time he is facing the champion upon entrance into a new division. I mean, you know, there's just no questioning of the type of time that this young man is on. The young king is stepping, he's always stepping, and he shows it constantly. The young king, right? And he is my favorite fighter for a reason, for that reason, because of the level of heart that he always steps first with. He don't step without the heart 10 toes. You understand? I love that. And so I'm anticipating his return to the ring. And I'm anticipating Brian Norman showing up to show and prove what he's about as well. I love the gusto surrounding the fight. I really do. And I have been waiting, real talk, for Bud, for the fight with Canelo. I've been waiting for Bud to go ahead and go do his thing so that I can move on, to what I'm really in high anticipation for, right? Salute to the King Bud. But this is really where it was for me. My weight, my gusto was here with Devin Haney, right? So that I'm glad that we got beyond that fight. I'm glad that the King certified his stature and his legacy with the achievement of the 3 times undisputed. Now I'm like, okay, let's get to the young King. You know what I mean? I love that 2 beautiful young brothers are going to be putting it all on the line for that supremacy. A display, a whole ass display of the generation that is next up. That's that. I mean, how could you not be excited for that? This is who is going to continue that legacy, that beautiful legacy of boxing on. You understand? So that we have to have all of our severity here, all of our attention, all of our weight and support here. You know what I mean? In all of boxing. But the young kings, the young gunners coming up. This is where it's at, y'all. This is where it's at. This is what we're going to be talking about for the next 5-10 years. You know what I'm saying? It's this generation. This generation is sprouting new roots, which means the lifeline of boxing is in their hands. Literally the future of boxing with these young kings. You know what I'm saying? And I think about that, and I think about, the fact that Black American boxing is in good hands whenever we have unapologetic warriorship in the building. Okay, and that's what we get when we are looking at Devin Haney and what he's acclaimed for himself as a young elite. Okay, and what Brian Norman is looking to prove to the world that he is about as well with this fight. This is how the sport maintains its lifeline, brothers and sisters, contrary to what the mainstream media would like to convince us of otherwise, right? Let's also not forget the young king, Abdullah Mason, who is also on the prowl. All right? The young lion, Abdullah, who I am in 1,000% support of, he is featuring on this card alongside Devin Haney and Brian Norman this coming November on that fantastic, wonderful card. And I cannot wait. This is going to be the young Abdullah's first title fight. Okay. And it's against a very great opponent, a very good opponent with a good name. This is hands down, absolutely without a doubt, the best card of the year. In my view, this card is motherfucking stacked. Let's not forget we got the motherfucking Mexican monster, David Benavidez, on this card, who is another one of my top gunners. Absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited for this fight, and I'm so glad, that we've moved past the Bud Canelo fight so that, we can refocus and re-energize the energy around this fight. Wonderful, wonderful card that we are going to be getting, people. Now, I know to a lot of us, when we think about Benavidez, to many, to a lot of our views, I guess, at least in how we think about him, we could see him kind of as somewhat of a vet of it, at this point, because of his association, his long association with Canelo Alvarez and stuff like that. A lot of us may forget that he is a young king. He's a young king. He's among that future of boxing. He is not, anywhere near Canelo's age, right? He's among that conversation of the future of boxing. And even though that he may have a level of courageousness and warriorship, and of course, like I said, his association long being had with Canelo Alvarez and stuff like that. But this man is a young gunner. He's young too. You know what I'm saying? The future of boxing is definitely in his hands as well. Um, so it's interesting when we think about David, but he is definitely among, the generation that is next up, 1000%. Um, you know, I wonder if, you know what, these particular people that I brought up, the Davids, the Devons, you know what I'm saying? Your Abdullahs, I don't have to ask if they have been paying attention. You understand what I'm saying? I don't need to ask Abdullah Mason if he has been paying attention. I definitely don't have to ask the young King Devon if he has been paying attention. I mean, it speaks for itself. I don't have to ask I don't have to throw that question in the direction of those young men. They have long under and overstood the assignment. Okay? Whether you are, on the level of the Dream Devin Haney's time, having amassed the highest level of achievement that you can in boxing, which is undisputed, or whether you are on the young Abdullah Mason's type of time, where you are coming up into your first title shot, right? These men show a level of heart and a beautiful display of temerity that cannot be faked and that cannot be hidden. Okay? They hold a level also of temerity that makes me a believer in boxing to this day. They hold that flame for me that allows me to be as passionate about boxing as I am in looking at those types of young men. You know what I mean? I don't need to ask them if they are paying attention. It is evident that they have been long before the question could even pop in my mind. That's the type of boxing and prowess and warriorship that I support. Now, let me check in with the good brothers and sisters because I wanted to change the trajectory a little bit as far as the topic, but it does coincide, with the larger discussion. Let me check in with you guys really quickly. We have Live Quality Sports. He says, I think the weakest champion in T.O.'s division is Richardson Hitchens. I hope he doesn't, but if T.O. wants, he could fight him, beat him, become unified, then fight Gary Antoine Russell or subtitles Matias. Not subtitles Matias. Yes, that is that's the trajectory. It's a wonderful, that's the aim, because, whether you like Hitchens or not, Hitchens is a champ. He's a belt holder. And so he would be wise to go after his head, whether that was an easy or a difficult fight. You know what I'm saying? He has a strap, and so he should be considered as absolute food, as absolute prey to be devoured. You know what I mean? But yeah, why not go up there and go do your thing? Absolutely. That's what I hope he does. That's what I hope he does. I don't want to see Shakur, wasting his time. Oh, I fight Teofimo Lopez. I got this name. Now, he makes a terrible business decision to go fight another motherfucking George Cordina or Padley or whatever. I don't want to see that. My twin says, I just want to see T.O. get his ass whooped. Hopefully he disappears after that. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he vanished into thin air after getting the beats put on him. The Beats by Dre handed to his ass, because it's definitely time for him to receive that type of pressure. You know what I mean? Exactly. CDB. He cannot move backwards. He cannot move backwards. Not at this time. He cannot afford to. So that all of his moves need to be calculated, and he needs to, change his mindset, because the mindset that he's previously, held has brought him here. Lackluster fights, no names, you know what I'm saying? And trying to, superimpose a fight that nobody asked for on the boxing public, which is what the fight with Zepeda was. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, even though he gained a level of, support after showcasing, the way that he did in the ring compared to his previous fights that he was kind of, accused, for being boring within, it still wasn't enough, right? We're not sitting here today relishing over the fight that he had with Zepeda. It was kind of a wham bam, thank you, ma'am, right? We gave him his, oh, okay, yeah, Shakur was, standing in the pocket, standing in the center of the ring, and we're kind of off from that. That's because it wasn't a legacy fight. What was on the line? What was on the line? You know, he has to have some meaning, uh, attached to his career if he is going to assume and hold, any level of stature in boxing. Now, I wanted to get into this. I wasn't initially going to speak about this. Hold on one second, good people. I wasn't initially going to speak about this, but I felt like it was it may be an opportune time to speak about it, considering the larger context that I wanted to bring into view and into focus about paying attention and just the eye on the Black American boxing landscape as a whole. Now, I see that there was some sort of an attempt made by Sean Zettel, off of the back of the Crawford fight last week. And I saw it, I came across it. I didn't mention anything about it, but I did come across it. And I wanted to just briefly touch on my perspective about that, because I think it's our responsibility as a community, as a Black boxing community, to speak very candidly about the things that we, that affect, the perspective and just the context of the role we play within boxing. And this is certainly something of note that I would like us to pay attention to. Now, yeah, there was an attempt made by this Sean Zettel character, but the boxing commentator who I have roasted before, right? Not too long ago, concerning the Vada and all that nonsense that they were on the Sean Porter podcast. There was a need for him to all of a sudden give credence, I guess, if you want to call it that, to Black American boxing, right? He wanted to, I guess, highlight the value, of the Black American style coming off of the Bud Crawford victory. And it's pretty interesting to me how he and others like him, because there certainly are suddenly feeling serendipitous out of the blue off of this Bud Crawford win. And they are serendipitous only after seeing Bud jump 3 weight classes to fight and defeat the face of boxing. So that there is no accreditation bestowed on our warriorship, in other words, outside of us achieving a feat that is considered widely as impossible. You can get a journalist or a commentator or two to give a nod and tilt a hat to Black American elite warriorship only when you defy the most outstanding of odds, or the most highly assumed, to be difficult type of odd. That's really, they may tip your hat over to you only when you are standing in the vein of what is largely held or considered to be impossible. That was interesting to me. Meanwhile, these people had no problem calling Lomachenko, as we all remember, the greatest thing since sliced goddamn bread, right? Or quite literally, they had no problem calling Lomachenko the greatest thing since Ali, after he had only 3 professional fights. They had no problem tilting a hat or giving a high five to a man with 3 pro fights. They had no problem tilting a hat or giving a high five or sitting around a hot cup of tea with to congratulate the Eastern European style that he represents. There was no pulling of teeth to accredit the Ukrainian, the Eastern European, or whatever have you. He didn't have to do the unthinkable. He did not have to jump through hoops in order to get that accreditation, whether he was proven or not. He was given it. Interesting. So that Sean Zattel is someone who would ride the coattails of Bud's glory only to turn around. And for example, let's say blame snack supplements and Victor Conti of foul play, all so that he could insinuate the fact that Devin Haney, who is an elite black male warrior, also that he could insinuate that Devin Haney is conspiring to tamper with drug testing and to opt to drug cheat himself. This is the same goddamn Sean Zattel that was insinuating Devin Haney's affiliation with the snack supplemental company and brand means that he is somehow attached to foul play and counterfeit activities in boxing. This is the Sean Zattel we are talking about that is suddenly, being relished upon by some boxing fans, leaving comments under his videos and putting all types of rainbow emojis everywhere and just lighting it up, tickle pink, about Sean Zattel giving a nod and a tilt of his hat to Black elite warriorship. Very interesting. This is the one that people are glazing over because he said a thing or two, because he merely mentioned Black American style last week. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that video, but I'm sure that you can find it. It's on YouTube. Okay? Now, I bring him up because the real ones who appreciate the sport, the brothers and sisters who have been on the front line speaking unapologetically about Black fighters, the ones of us who have been keeping their names at the center of our discussions, at the center of our interests, because we know the value that they bring and that they hold as sportsmen, as athletes, right? We are the ones who have propelled and sustained boxing and the nobility of the beautiful athleticism that our Black American warriors have always showcased. It is not new. This is not because we are Johnny come latelys. We know what time it is with our fighters. It is not new for us to give credence and accreditation to these beautiful Black warriors, or to anybody that we find to be of valiance and worth, right? Wherever it may be displayed. But most certainly, we are always the first to speak for the greatness that we see in these brothers. When everybody else is casting stones and throwing around tabloid rumors, there are the real brothers and sisters out here doing the work to highlight their warriorship and their valiance as fighters. This is not new to us. So that when I see this, attempt being made, like all of a sudden, he wiped his eyes and saw the light and came to, some level of consciousness about the Black elite fighter, all of a sudden, because Bud did what he did, it's like, where the fuck you been? You've been right here. You know what time it is. But you ride the coattails of this moment to assume this posture. Like, oh, I'll be the one gracious enough to bestow the light upon the Black American style. The style that has given boxing its blood. I'll take this moment to give a 5-minute highlight of that before we move on to the next, that is. You understand what I'm saying? It's absolutely diabolical. The brothers and sisters, the real ones, have been doing this work. Even long before I started, I'm still very much a newbie in this space. But I didn't need a space to recognize the reality. Long before I began this little space that I have here, this platform, I'm on it because I know what excellence is when I see it exemplified. Okay? I think because a lot of us, fall victim to recency bias or that Johnny come lately logic, that's the level of people that are being swindled by what that man said. Right? But the real ones have been here with channels or without channels, with platforms or without platforms. We have been standing 10 toes with the culture that has always moved and propelled the progress forward of boxing. Zattel chose a moment, a singular outlier, if you will, right? A singular aspect to cling to in order to give credence to the Black American elite presence in boxing, right? I do not find that to be complimentary, brothers and sisters. In fact, to me, it just crystallizes how hesitant the boxing world continues to be when it comes to the acknowledgement of Black warriorship and its centrality in the sport. It only crystallizes their hesitance in the acknowledgement of our fighters. That's all that statement that he made did for me. If you guys didn't see the video, this is what he said. I quote it. He says, quote, "There's these archetypes in boxing. The great Mexican fighter. Right now, the Eastern European fighter has exploded in the last 10 to 15 years, and their school of boxing and their culture that comes along with it, their mentality, their approach and temperament in the sport. We know the Mexican temperament and approach and a lot of the style that they add to the sport, and so forth and so on. All of these different cultures. This was yet another reminder that when it comes to boxing, that little Black kid from the ghetto is quite a formidable force till this day." End quote. And when he says the "till this day" part, he chuckles and points at Radio Raccoon like, oh, to this day, like get it, Wilder, Deontay Wilder, till this day. So that was a play on Deontay Wilder, right? But did you guys hear that? Now, one of the things I instantly noticed about this statement was how in him describing the esteem and the prowess and the style and valiance of the Eastern European and Mexican fighters, he did not once refer to them as children. Did you guys hear him refer to the Eastern European style, the Mexican fighter, or anybody else as a child? No, he did not. Nor did he feel the need to highlight the social backgrounds or social conditions surrounding neither the Mexican or the Eastern European that he was referencing. He made no alluding statements to their upbringing whatsoever, to their social conditions. Did you guys hear that? He simply described the men that he was talking about, the mindset, the stature of the Mexican, of the Eastern European, right? He highlighted the fact that the culture, begets the mentality of their warriorship, and they assume that warriorship in the ring. That's all he did. But curiously, when he highlights Bud Crawford, good brothers and sisters, okay, he refers to him as the little Black kid from the ghetto. He is referring to Bud Crawford and the elite black male because he is highlighting and centralizing the black elite male style, the prowess of black American style. He's referring to that black American elite male as the little black kid from the ghetto, as he said. Very interesting descriptor and signifier, no? For those of you that saw it, that's certainly what popped up into my mind. Oh, how interesting. Wasn't surprised, but how interesting, right? The little black kid from the ghetto is quite the formidable force. Now, the carelessness with which he made that statement, good people, is part and parcel of, the larger conversation that to me always finds a way to disgrace and discredit and patronize the elite black presence and authority in the sport. I said what the fuck I said. That was an example of that. Whether known or unbeknownst to him, as he was making that exclamation, that's what was happening. What a supercilious statement, you guys. I was sitting back like, the fuck did this man just say? It's just mind-blowing to me, you guys. And it's so inherent within his frame of thinking, brothers and sisters, that I am sure, I am positive that it didn't even cross his mind how totally out of touch and nonchalantly dismissive he was in taking the posture that he had. No doubt about it. It's just so beyond him. It's just like, this is it. The little black kid from the ghetto, he emphasized that. He had to emphasize that. Not only refer to them as a child, as a boy, but from the ghetto. Like, do you guys hear this? You know what I mean? Wild work, you guys. Just as nonchalant and dismissive as he wants to be in that posture, especially, as he had a black man who was Radio Raccoon, right? At his side, as always, shining shoes the way he always does. He felt even more, free to say what he wants because he got the shoe shine man that's giving him all of this unyielding and comforting support that he could ever hope for in being as culturally insensitive to the black experience as he wants to be. So he has the leeway and the free reign to say any old thing that he wants to. Because the shoe shine man is right there gobbling it up. And most likely, just as displayed in that comment section, a lot of simping ass black folk who don't know no goddamn better are going to allow for that to be said to and about them. Excuse me? Now, the reality is, good brothers and sisters, as my real ones know, okay, we are a very prideful people. This is just overall, okay? Our community is very prideful, comprised of very prideful people. That goes without saying to us who know what time it is and stand 10 toes. We are very prideful people, okay? There is much that we have been through and much that we are up against in this country and worldwide. My brothers and sisters know what I'm talking about, right? And though we have faced and continue to face conditions that we would rather not be a part of as a result of all types of historical social constructs, we have built a culture of esteem around ourselves despite those things, no matter what environment we come up within, whether it's one that's considered well-to-do or otherwise. We have built up a culture of esteem around ourselves to shield us from those systems that affect our reality on a day-to-day basis. Yet and still, being referred to as a kid from the ghetto will never, never be found as acceptable to any upstanding Black person who has had to endure that and who has ultimately or intends to ultimately work their way out of that and into a better situation. I don't give a damn, brothers and sisters. We do not want to be referred to as a ghetto child, whether we have experienced that or not. No upstanding Black person wants that association. We had to build bone and concrete around our reality so that we can survive. That is not a reality that we want to exist within. Those of us who come from that, those of us who have been a part of that and who identify with that. Okay? Interestingly, as well, there was no mention, let's say, for example, of the gates and the walls that are put up to keep Mexican people from crossing into this country. Did you hear Sean Sattel mention the social conditions or the historical social constructs surrounding Mexican people? There was no mention of gates and walls that those people have to face from keeping, crossing into the country, for example. There was no mention of the ghetto life that many of these Mexican people have to squabble within upon their entrance into an unknown country that they do not speak the language of, or whatever have you, whatever their situation may be that leaves them in this social standing. He brought up none of the things that those people have to face or endure when he referenced their boxing and their IQ and accreditation as fighters. He mentioned no such thing of their social background or historical struggles when he talked about Mexican people. And I'm absolutely sure that it didn't even make it near to crossing his mind to divulge the aspects of European history and their struggles socially and what affects them in their day-to-day lives from where they come from. This is because when he is talking about those other cultures, he is simply viewing those men, those people, as fighters. It does not matter what they have had to deal with, good or bad. He just focuses on their warriorship. That's it. But to him and the many people like him within the boxing world, Black people are inextricably linked to stereotype. Inextricably linked. Do you understand what I'm saying, brothers and sisters? No matter what degree of the impossible that the Black American alchemizes and turns into the absolute possible, you are inextricably linked to stereotype. So that it was nearly impossible, I would posit, for Sean Sattel and many of that mentality of his culture to assume and to just credit Black American warriorship as it is without the confines of stereotype. It's impossible for him to do that. And he displayed that. And the boxing world constantly displays that. You cannot be a champion. You cannot be accredited with warriorship and valiance and heart and courageousness, and you are lying, you're a warrior. This is why it's so easy for them to pass that mindset on other cultures anywhere but to you. Because you are just a stereotype to them. Somewhere that they can, something that they can marginalize and keep sequestered in their mind. You are sequestered from the rest of the boxing world. They're warriors, but you're just a little Black boy from the ghetto. Never mind that this man is the first 3-time undisputed since the other beautiful Black king, as I mentioned, Henry Armstrong. We can't accredit your warriorship in a line of warriorship. An unbroken line of Black excellence in this sport. We will not showcase and highlight your valiance and your Black culture that represents that and keeps that bloodline of boxing flowing. We're not going to look at you and say, oh my goodness, look at the warrior culture of these people. Look at the display that this particular culture blesses us with. They gave us the greatest of all time. They gave us the Iron Mike. They gave us the real deal Holyfield. They gave us Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson, Charlie Burley, the Coco Kid, Joe Louis. They gave us all these beautiful brothers. They are giving us Devin Haney. They are giving us Bud Crawford, Earl Spence, Abdullah Mason. This is who they give us. The past, the present, and the future. But we're not going to call you a warrior and leave it at that. We're not going to attribute your culture to warriorship. What we are going to identify you with and sequester you within is the ghetto. The little black child from the ghetto. Ladies and gentlemen, all he did was crystallize, as I said, the view that is long held and has been long held and still stands to be held in boxing when it comes to black warriorship. That is the reticence. That is the hesitation. That is their refraining from giving you the credence because they are obsessed with the archetype associated to the stereotype. That was diabolical work to see that man say something like that. Yet, you know what, brothers and sisters, despite it all, and in spite of all of that, it is Black American elite warriorship and style and stature that holds everybody in check, whether they want to be or not. It always has, and it continues to be, all the way back to your Jack Johnsons, all the way to the present day young King Devin Haney and beyond. Black American elite prowess, expertise, sportsmanship has held boxing in check, period, and continues to. And it continues to propel the progress that we all come to know and respect of boxing. We are at the forefront of that, and our warriorship dictates that. And all of the other cultures who get to stand beside us in that display of valiance, salute to all of those cultures. But let's not forget that this sport is what it is because a Black man said he was the greatest to ever do it. And everybody has been following suit ever since. Give credence where credence is due. There doesn't need to be reticence in exalting excellence in warriorship where you see it. I don't hold my tongue when I say the name of Roberto Duran because he is one of my favorite fighters of all time. Just like I don't hold my tongue for David Benavidez, who is a young gunner that I am an adamant supporter of in this current day. When I see warriorship, I give the credence and the respect where it's due. Unfortunately, some people have a hard time, dealing with the reality of Black supremacy in the sport, Black warriorship, Black intelligence being exemplified in the sport. Somehow that's problematic, but everybody else can have it given up for them. All right. I got to quote Deontay Wilder when he says, what's understood don't have to be explained. We know what type of time we on. You understand? And we know what we give, and we just have to stand proudly within that, whether we are fighters or supporters of the sport or anything in between. That's why I put the war call out for Shakur Stevenson to step up to the plate and follow suit behind the greatness that he stands so closely to day in and day out in his mentor and in his, one of his primary, supporters and teachers in Brett Crawford. And all of these young men, even the men that are doing it big. You know what I'm saying? I want to see Devin Haney continue on that legacy as well. He has made his mark. That's why I said I don't have to ask him the question, is he paying attention? Because he's showing me that he very much is. Young King Abdullah Mason is making all of the right steps, and I wish him nothing but victory and success come November and beyond. Same thing with Brian Norman, whatever his ventures may be after this fight with Devin Haney, even though I am 10 toes with Dream Team. You know what I'm saying? He's a young brother, and I support his ventures and his movement so long as he is upright. And so long as he does not allow himself to be deluded and clouded from this point onward. And the same goes for anybody else. I support the warriorship. You know what I mean? Real talk, these young warriors today are en route, you know, and while some of them are deciding to fumble over their obsession and their lust for a bag, you know, whatever the reticence of their approach may be towards their paths, on one hand, we do have the real ones on the other hand who are sharpening their swords unapologetically, who are building unapologetically, who are assuming their place unapologetically, who are changing unapologetically, who are redefining and shining unapologetically. That's the people that I put my wholehearted weight and support on. And I will continue to, because that is the future of boxing that I want to see materialize, the continuation of the beautiful Black excellence that we have long represented. Let me take a second to check in with the good people. Salute to anybody who came in that I may have missed. Oh my goodness. The twin says, Keyshawn Davis is in the top ranked doghouse. Child. And he checked out. He checked out, son. He checked out of the hotel. I don't know where he's heading, but it's not towards the smoke at this particular point, twin. I don't know what's going on with Purple Pain, but we shall see. We shall see. Bo Rice, I see you. Salute to you, King, again. Who else we got in the building? I'm just scrolling through here. I went a little bit ways up, but wanted to touch base with some of the perspectives being shared with me. Yes, the twin says, going straight after the most dangerous champion, too. I remember Regis Prograis was being ducked when Devin Haney stepped up to fight him. Absolutely. Absolutely. He became what he became after Devin, you know, washed him. You know what I'm saying? You know, but in the lead up to that fight, he was the boogeyman of the 140-pound division, period. Period. You know what I mean? If you don't know that, you don't know motherfucking boxing. You don't know what the climate was at that time. Regis Prograis was the big stepper. He was the big puncher. He'll put your lights out. That's who Devin Haney ran up to the smoke to face in his first fight at 140. Not only a champion, but somebody, you know, accredited and touted, widely held, you know, as a dangerous, you know, the most dangerous man in the division. You know what I'm saying? And he's doing that yet again with Brian Norman come November. And I put all of my respect on Devin Haney's name. He is my number one because of his valiance and his heart. You know what I mean? No half stepping with the young king. Salute to the coach Hudson. He says, our people praising him, inviting him to lay with their wives and feed him while he does it. Can you imagine that, comrade? What is going on with these people? You know, I took a quick you know, gander at the comment section of that video, and I was absolutely astounded. I was absolutely astounded by, you know, what I was seeing. Of course, I did not even bother, you know what I'm saying, to read, you know, the entirety of that. You know, I would have been sick to my damn stomach. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I could have, you know, dealt with that stomach to, you know, reading the entirety of those comments. But just in peering through, just in passing through some of those guys, just like, what the fuck? Your people are, you know, just in this man's lap. Crazy work. Absolute crazy work. Couldn't make it up if I wanted to. The King Stephen X, the King, he says, crazy thing is that the ghetto from Europe, the crazy thing is that ghetto from Europe, but they always put the word on us. Exactly. Yeah, the ghetto, exactly. Absolutely. And I think that's was attributed to the Jewish community, right? That term ghetto, right? It's something that they had described, you know, their particular neighborhoods over there. in Germany and wherever those people were at that time. Right. It later became associated with us. But yeah, that wasn't anything originally attributed to us, which is interesting in and of itself. Salute to the King Uncommon in the building. Salute to my brother. Thank you so much for joining, King. If you are still here, salute to you. Oh my goodness, we got some super chats that I missed, good people. Let's get to those super chats to the people who are blessing the channel and standing 10 toes with the channel. Okay, my goodness. I already got the King, Glenn Micken. Salute to you again, and thank you so much again for your support. Oh my goodness, my beautiful sister Cammy, Convos with Cam, dropped us a wonderful, wonderful super chat. She says, cook, and she puts all types of fire emojis in the message. Thank you so much, sis. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. That big, big love you always show. Big blessings to my sister Cam. And we have my twin, my beloved twin, Daryl Anderson. He says, just leaving some artwork. Oh, I like that one, twin. Artwork. Just leaving some artwork in the chat for another great and insightful Sunday Cook Good Stuff, as always, twin. Thank you so much, twin. I appreciate you big. You already know. 10 toes with the love with my twin. And salute to the King, Nata86 in the building. He says, salute, SugarFreeMars, and salute to the mighty LDBC. Much love to you, Queen, and to everyone in the chat. Keep cooking, Queen. Thank you so much, King Nata. I appreciate you always for the support. Oh my goodness, my beautiful sister Neek is in the building. Hey, beautiful sis. Thank you so much for joining. I get excited every time I see my sis in the building. Talk about the queens. Hello. This is one half of two of the beautiful queens in boxing. Okay, we got Neek J, who is one half of the queens of the ring, in addition to my other beautiful sister, Boxy Anna the Menace. Salute to the queen, Neek in the building. Thank you so much, Queen, for joining, and big, big love for the support and the super chat. I really appreciate you, sis. Thank you so much. Yes. Let's see what else my family was saying before we wrap it up here. Oh my God. King Stephen says exactly. Tons of blacks live in the burbs. Oh, live in the burbs. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know what he is talking about with the ghetto. You know what I'm saying? Yes, that is that's the condition of many people in America, black and otherwise. Black and goddamn otherwise. I don't see you attributing, any other culture to the ghetto as if they aren't susceptible. Some of their people aren't susceptible to that social construct, whatever their background may be, or for whatever reason. Ghetto, or what is implied by ghetto is not relegated to black experience alone. That's the American experience, real talk. Crazy work. But the insensitivity is clearly evinced, in his mindset. That's why I found it to be an imperative for me to divulge that, in our discussion today, whether you saw it or not. I wanted to put it on the table and give my particular perspective on it, because it's necessary for us to be privy to these types of things. We have to, have savvy about these types of things, so that that when I speak about them and when I call out these social issues and how they intertwine and intermingle within boxing, you are not just sitting here thinking, oh, well, Sugar Free is just on her Black Power shit. Yes, I am forever all day 10 toes on my Black Power shit, but that doesn't mean that I am just simply talking, to be filling up space. I call these things to the forefront because it is an imperative for us to have our awareness surrounded by these things, and how, they are not exempt from the sport of boxing, as I say time and time again, simply because we are watching sports and entertainment, but that they are alive and well. And a lot of times they are absolutely crystallized even more because they are on and being displayed within a major platform, such as, on a large stage like sports. You know what I'm saying? But, it's important for us to be aware of these types of things. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's it for me, beautiful people. I don't want to hold you on for too much longer. I think I kind of covered all of the aspects that I wanted to touch base on with you. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful insight with me in the chat. It's always, like I say, lovely to Exactly, comrade. I feel your disgust. I feel, how abhorrent all of this was to you, and how it's on equal par with mine. I just feel it in you when I hear you say that. Like all them brothers just praising, that was disgusting. Like, oh my God. Ugh. It was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. You know. Um, I don't know. The boxing world is a very interesting place. Everybody from all of these displays, these people pandering and placating, all the way to the people who are giving false credence, but really motherfucking taking shots. And oh chow, it's just a lot of crazy work going on in the boxing dynamic. But that's why I really value this little community that I built, and hopefully continuing to build here in this space where I get to talk to some wonderful conscious brothers and sisters who are passionate about the sport like I am, and that we can speak openly and honestly, not only about the sport, but all of the intricacies that come, within, um, you know, the sport of boxing. All of the nuances that follow that. So it's wonderful to have a setting where we could chop it up on that. But I think I'll end on that note, beautiful people. Thank you again so much for joining me. Thank you to all the big love that you guys showed me in the super chat. Big love to everybody who joined. Got to shout out my gunners, okay? The King Darrell Anderson, my comrade, the Coach Hudson, my beautiful sister Cam, okay? The King Uncommon. Did I see the Great Mike? I wanted to say that I saw the Great Mike in the building. The King Stephen X. I think I saw the Great Mike show up in here. If he did not, I still got to big up the Great Mike, okay? Because even if he wasn't in here this week, he is always showing up, at any other time. So salute to the Great Mike, salute to the Sensei, the Stormy, salute to the King Druth, my big bro, who joined. And everybody else standing 10 toes. Thank you so much. Always wonderful to talk to you. Have a wonderful night, and I will see y'all on the next one. Infinite blessings, y'all. Peace.